Hey guys, it's Kurt from Wersi Club USA. Hey, let's circle back for our Ketron friends and talk about why we are using both out 1 and out 2 on the Wersi side and in 1 and in 2 on the Ketron side. This is not the only way you can do it. And if you'd like to see more or see some of this in action, because there's not any really live video here, this is basically just screenshots. We can do that. So post your questions or comments after the video, and maybe we'll do a video dedicated to whatever that topic is to help everyone understand it better. So some of this applies, well, actually almost all this applies specifically to Ketron, but what you want to know is, depending on whether you're using a Roland or some VST or whatever it is you're connecting, you're probably going to find some of the same kind of things that you have to think about and work with. So let's jump in. So just to clarify what we're talking about, again, remember we have two MIDI ports on the back of this particular Ketron. Notice in 1 is labeled GM, but that's not really general MIDI like you might think, though it does support general MIDI, but there's more sounds available through that connection than the words or the abbreviation GM implies. And then you see in 2 and in the abbreviation for keyboard, and that would be how you access the arranger section. Okay, now let's take a look at this. This is from what they call the technical data manual from Ketron. And notice up top here, it's called GM voices. Well, if you count, there's way more voices than general MIDI supports, and if you look at them, they're really not general MIDI. Now, it turns out that Bank A over here actually does follow the general MIDI map. But notice we've got banks B, C, D, and E, and on other Ketrons, like an SD90, there's a bank F, SD9, SD60, those have a bank F. Can't say about Audio, actually, I don't have one of those to look at. But anyway, so these are the sounds you can get via MIDI in 1, remember it's labeled GM on the back of the unit. So if you remember, in our case, we connect from MIDI out 1 on our Sonic to MIDI in 1 on the SD40, and that allows us to get to all of these different sounds based on picking the correct bank, or MSB is what we refer to that as on the OAX side. And then you use this program change or patch number to get to, for example, xylophone would be in bank 0, patch, xylophone 14, so that's your xylophone, okay? And then if you were to change the bank to bank 10 right here, that same patch number would get you, geez, I don't even know how to say that. Well, whatever, I don't know if that's short for marimba. I don't know, I'd have to try it. Whatever an MBIRA is, would be on bank 10. So you get the point. Now, let's scroll down a little bit. Hopefully you don't get drunk here watching this. Hold on. Let's scroll down. We don't care about drum sets. We don't care about styles, but we'll mention something about that if I remember at the end. Here we go, voice presets. Okay, now this is, these will match the screen. So if you bring up the piano section and you look at the front screen on your Ketron, you'll see all these sounds following this order, okay? And notice up here, this is now saying bank 0 again, or bank 1 or bank 2. The difference is, to get to these sounds, you have to use MIDI into the key B, keyboard input, on the back of your Ketron. So what we did is we have out 2 from our Sonic going to in 2 on our Ketron, and that lets us access all of these sounds, which again match the screen, okay, on the front of the unit. I didn't compare one for one on an SD40, to be honest. I do know for a fact on the SD90 that some of the sounds that show up in bank F are not on the screen. So by accessing it from the in1 connection, you can actually access sounds that don't show up on the screen. Now let's take a look at some MIDI configuration things on a Ketron. And there's a lot of stuff on this screen, but we're going to focus on these two bottom left ones here, GM part and Arranger keyboard. And so GM part maps to the in port 1 on the back of the unit, and Arranger keyboard maps to input 2. So when you touch the GM button on that previous screen, this is the next screen that comes up for you. And notice over here in yellow we've got RX, which is receive, turned on. And now this is the mapping of that information. So by default, channel 1 coming in goes to internal channel 1 on your Ketron. Now you can change these if you want to, and you could even turn it off so that channel 1 did not respond if that's what you needed to do. But really what you want to see here is you have 16 available channels. Now remember, on the Wersi side we were using that dynamic channel assignment, and that allows us to combine multiple Ketron sounds at the same time, right? Because Wersi will pick, let's just say it's going to pick channel 1, 7, and 8. So in this case, 1 is available, 7's available, 8's available, and it'll be fine. And you won't get that MIDI conflict message on the Wersi side. If you hard-coded channels 1, 7, and 8, and you happen to pick the voice that had channel 7 in it a second time, you get a MIDI conflict. So again, why we're using dynamic channels and how we can access all of the sounds on the Ketron via MIDI in 1, going back to those charts that I showed you of which bank number and which patch number you need to use. Now let's compare that to the keyboard or MIDI in 2 configuration. Now this screen looks sort of the same, but if you look closely, it's actually quite a bit different. So we still have receive turned on, and you see there's still 16 buttons up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 times 2, 16. But notice the headings or the labels are a little bit different. So this is now, if you would like to access drum 1 or drum 2 section, notice they're all turned off by default. The bass section. And now this is not channel. That kind of confused me for a while. That really means chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, and chord 5, because there are 5 possible tracks in a style for, guitar, piano, organ, whatever, plus your bass, plus your drums. So this is how you could trigger sounds in those sections, which are arranger sections of the instrument. Notice down here you have right and left. So obviously this would be the right hand, or the, if you're playing on a keyboard that's split, for example, right hand above middle C, left hand below middle C as an example, and you can set a MIDI channel. So what we do is we have normally left set up for channel 2, and we have a voice on the Wersi that allows us to assign that to the lower manual on our Wersi, so that as we play chord changes, the Ketron follows us. So that's how we did that. Now you can use, you're going to find that if you use some of these up here, not everything works quite the same as you might expect. These are not just channels, MIDI channels that work as they do in that initial screen of everything just works the way you want it to work. But if you stick with just the right and the left ones down here, you can basically pick any sound you want from the preset voice section. That's what's important here. So if you have right here turned on to, we'll just say it's on channel 1, and you go into your Wersi and you create a hard-coded sound. See, that's where it gets a little tricky. You got to make sure it goes to channel 1, but now you would use the preset voices, not the GM voices. Now they're the same sounds. So if you pick something called tenor sax in the GM section, it's the same GM, or it's the same tenor sax that's in the preset voice section. The difference is that you're accessing it from either input 1 or input 2. Okay, that was a lot of mumbo jumbo. If you're a Wersi owner and you stuck to the end, my hat's off to you. If you're a Ketron owner, we hope you stuck to the end because there's some good tips here that hopefully you can use. Again, we welcome your feedback and comments, and if you want more detail on one of these sections, let us know and we'll whip up a video showing it in more detail. As always, thanks for watching.